There are two known Americans who have fought in the Russian army in Ukraine. Both of them are dead. Not a very good survival rate.
Charlie Dogwood.
Today we're discussing Michael Gloss, one of the two Americans to die for the cause of Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. We'll be going over who he was and why an all-American boy with a CIA bigwig for a mother decided to join the Russian army, ending up getting blown up by artillery only a couple of months after entering the war zone. Just another body for the meat grinder that has taken the lives of around 500,000 Russians. Let's get into it. Michael Alexander Gloss was born to a family that can only be described as a deep state family. His mother, Julianne, had graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy and broke the glass ceiling there, working for over 30 years in intelligence and in private industry for companies like IBM. His father Larry was also in the Navy and was a veteran of Desert Storm, but afterwards focused heavily in cybersecurity. And on top of everything else, they lived in Northern Virginia as well. If a deep state family stereotype exists, the Gloss family was the poster child for the stereotype, and few people could claim to be as enmeshed in the American security apparatus since diapers quite like Michael Gloss could. But for all intents and purposes, he was just a normal, all-American boy. As a kid, Michael fell in love with nature, working with his hands and making music with his guitar. He was a Boy Scout and really studied the outdoors, going as far as becoming an Eagle Scout. All told, it seems like the Gloss family did their best for their son to help him become a responsible American citizen. At the age of 11, he made a Lego depiction of the destruction of the Buddha of Bamiyan by the Taliban. According to online reporting, he was, quote, fascinated by the hero's journey and loved The Lord of the Rings as well as Adventure Time. This interest in the hero's journey no doubt influenced Gloss's later actions to at least some degree. Around the same time that Michael Gloss was entering his teenage years, Ukraine was going through major political changes that his parents would have been watching quite intently. Michael, meanwhile, focused on sports, picking up lacrosse and football. In spite of this, his destiny was not to become a Heisman Trophy winner, but to die in a country that most Americans had never heard of before the news pointed it out for them. Gloss graduated Oakton High School in 2020, and in 2021 he enrolled in a school called the College of the Atlantic, set in the cute little coastal town of Bar Harbor, Maine. It was a small, tight-knit, social justice-orientated liberal arts college, which gelled well with Michael Gloss, who had a very highly developed sense of right and wrong, like many young activists. He appeared at climate protests and even appeared at a protest at a baseball game, seemingly about abortion or something else. During this time, he also became associated with the Rainbow Family, a worldwide gathering of hippies who meet at camps in the woods and kind of act as like they're at a festival, where they pray and meditate for world peace. In essence, they're eco-anarchists who really love magic mushrooms and smoking pot. So I'm sure Mike was really enjoying himself. But this activist spirit was tempered with his studies. After all, you know, even if you're out being an activist, you still have to pass a test occasionally if you're a student, right? Theoretically, anyway. And while there at the school, he merged his love of building and his love of nature, focusing on sustainable building techniques to end the reliance on non-renewable resources. All told, Michael Gloss was a typical do-gooder. He had a moral code, and no matter what, he wanted to stick to it. Ultimately, this youthful righteousness, I guess you could say, would prove to be his downfall, and would be indistinguishable from radicalism, political radicalism, because Michael Gloss had become radicalized. And for what it's worth, it's clearly not something that began at the school. You don't go to the College of the Atlantic without already being something of a hippie. This radicalism was already something that had been brewing in him for quite some time, and I'm certain you remember what the early 2020s were like. And Michael Gloss was clearly swept up in that pandemonium, let's say. In addition to this, there's been some discussion from his parents that Gloss suffered from an undisclosed mental illness of some type. We don't know what it was, and we don't need to know, but it's understood that he stopped taking his medication at some point while going to college, and ultimately this would have disastrous effects. This combination of his interest in the hero's journey, his focus on his moral code, and his unmedicated mental disorder probably all worked together to influence him to undertake his short and very tragic odyssey. By 2023, Michael Gloss was done with college. no longer content to take out loans from Sally Mae. He traveled first to Italy.
Fuck Nazis. Nah, fuck Nazis.
And then to Israel, where he was deported ultimately to Cyprus. Once there, he decided to attend a Rainbow Family gathering that spring of 2023 along the border of Turkey and Bulgaria. During this time, his parents were pretty scared for him, especially his mom, who Gloss complained to his Rainbow Family friends was tugging at his heartstrings. My mom was telling me I could just come back anytime. She was trying to make me collapse and call her for a ticket home. I started feeling sick. His friends in the Rainbow Family helped him find somewhere to lay low for a bit, and he was re-energized in his journey right after that. Then he was headed to Hatay in southern Turkey to help out with the recovery from a huge earthquake that they had had there. This was in line with Michael's beliefs and wants for the world. He was not necessarily a bad person. He was odd and probably using a lot of drugs at this time and was totally unmedicated, but in his heart he wanted to do the right thing. And by the time Michael Gloss arrived in Hatay in southern Turkey, like I had mentioned, he looked like a young Gandalf, sporting a beard and a staff alongside his shabby, wizard-like clothes. He bought all the bread that he could and gave it away for free to everybody who would take it, and quickly took the nickname of Hamza, which was not his first or last nickname that he would give to himself. He sometimes referred to himself as Ithobal in third person. He was kind of a weird guy. Ithobal or Hamza or Michael Gloss, whatever you want to call him, spent a lot of time going deep into conspiracy theories during this time, and just generally began to seemingly lose his mind, becoming increasingly focused on a multipolar world order and BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Partly he was influenced by videos coming out of Israel and Palestine even before the invasion of Gaza. And as early as 2022, before he had even left the US, he had been burning the US flag. As time went on in Turkey, others in the Rainbow Family would recall that Gloss was increasingly negative and spoke about collapsing civilizations and a desire to go to war with his homeland of the US. Online, however, he claimed that his main goals were to defeat mortality, yes, mortality as in the concept of dying, and the military-industrial complex, which is kind of ironic because on August 13th, 2023, he posted a picture in the Rainbow Family group chat and said, "Y'all, I'm in Russia right now. How did I get here?" While this initially seemed to be for the purpose of going to a Rainbow Family meetup in Crimea, in reality, Gloss would never attend the event. Gloss had always had money troubles while traveling and relied on the Rainbow Family for support, even opening up a page for his fans to, you could pay a few dollars to see his wizard staff, if you were curious enough to pay the money for it. In Russia, the situation for him was even worse, given sanctions and the fact that Gloss really didn't even speak any Russian at the time, so he couldn't get work or get any money in the country, and he couldn't bring himself money from the outside because of those sanctions. Eventually, he found a Rainbow Family associate in Moscow and went to the Moscow Visa Center looking to extend his visa. It's here, probably, where he was informed of the really great opportunity as a contract soldier in the Russian military. He would get not only money, but also a visa to stay in Russia afterwards, provided that he survived the war. Gloss waffled for a bit, looking to go to Vienna or Bratislava before deciding to make his fateful decision, joining the Russian military. Very quickly, he built up a plan for his future in Russia, starting to learn Russian and planning some sort of an ecological project in Siberia. He told his parents that he was going to stay in Russia for just a little while, and then immediately afterwards he signed his contract with the Russian military and he was brought in for training. His parents tracked his phone to an avant-garde center, which is a network of campuses established by Russia to train teenagers for service in the armed forces and essentially funnel them into the armed forces of Russia. Some of them being Ukrainian teens pressed into attending these campuses by the Russian authorities. After a mere 2 weeks, Gloss and others in his group, mostly Nepali citizens who had joined as mercenaries, were taken to their military units. Gloss was assigned to the formerly elite 137th Guards Airborne Regiment, though by that point it had already been broken during the 2022 Kharkiv counteroffensive, so in reality Gloss was just filling in as cannon fodder, being assigned to an assault unit, which just means that they were going to go and try and infiltrate behind Ukrainian lines. Gloss had other ideas though, and submitted designs to some institute in Russia for unknown purposes, but this all came to nothing. By December of 2023, Gloss was moved north of the city of Bakhmut, an unassuming city in the Donbass that had become a key battleground in the war, though no one expected it when the battle began in July of 2022. By its end, the twin battles of Bakhmut and Soledar would become known as some of the bloodiest battles of this century, though Michael Gloss had arrived after the battle had already been won. Now the fighting was on the outskirts of the area near Bakhmut rather than the immediate vicinity of the city itself. As an assault unit member, he was sneaking into Ukrainian lines, clearing trenches, among other high-danger activities. On April 4th, 2024, while clearing Ukrainian trenches and fortifications north of the city of Bakhmut, Michael Gloss and Corporal Ivan Kokovin suffered a direct hit from Ukrainian artillery. Gloss likely died in incredible pain, surviving the initial blast from the artillery shell and passing away from the blood loss. He was 21 years old. It took until October of that year for the Russian government to reach out to Gloss's parents and inform them that their son had died fighting for them. Afterwards, the news had trickled out to the Rainbow family, and by December, his funeral was held, with Gloss and Kokovin being posthumously awarded medals for their supposed courage. The obituary published by his parents, by the way, made no mention of his participation in the war on Russia's side, simply stating that he was forging his own hero's journey in Eastern Europe when he died. In February of 2024, a few months before his death, Michael Gloss's mother, Julianne, had been appointed as the Deputy Director of Digital Innovation of the CIA, which helped fan the flames of an already eye-grabbing headline. Now, not only had the American died fighting for Putin, he was the son of a major CIA official. Now the story was all the stranger. Boyhood rebellion was one thing, but this was on a whole other level. While several thousand Americans had fought on the Ukrainian side of the war, Michael Gloss is only one of 2 Americans that I am aware of to fight for Russia in this war. So, when a report about Gloss's death was published in April of 2025, news of the all-American son of the CIA Deputy Director dying for Putin made some waves online. The Russians, for their part, clearly wanted to make hay while the sun shined. In September of that year, Kokovin and Gloss had a school named after them in the Donbass, with officials saying that Kokovin and Gloss died defending people from neo-Nazis. It's ironic, really. Gloss, whose stated objectives in life were solving mortality and ending the military-industrial complex, had died far younger than he should have, and had done so while willingly in the service of a nation engaged in a war that a younger Michael Gloss probably would have called evil. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing the video. Also, feel free to check out my Twitch and Stream VOD channels. All links are, as always, in the description. Without further ado, please check out this video. It's pretty good. Good stories only. Thank you.